Before getting started, let's bring out the pattern measurements with Shift and Z. Okay, we will be creating a sleeve out of one piece of pattern that will wrap around her arm, and it's going to connect right here at the bottom of her arm. So if we want a length that will comfortably wrap around her arm, we can help ourselves with the armhole length. So approximately 200 plus 200, so let's go with 400. And let's just go ahead and grab our rectangle tool, click once. We're going to be using the dialog box now, and input the width to 400. And we're going to leave the height at 500 since we're going to adjust that later, and hit OK. Now because we don't need these measurements anymore, let's press Shift and Z again to get rid of them. Now we're going to wrap this piece of fabric around her arm with the use of the arrangement points that we already know can be found right here. And we're going to select the pattern we just created, and we're going to position it right around here, alright? So that the back meets right here as we discussed. Now we're going to turn them off. We can position this even a bit better if we would like. Alright, so as we can see now, one piece, so this part of the sleeve is going to be sewn onto this part of the front, and the other part is going to be sewn onto this part. And since we're going to be using the segment sewing tool, it makes sense to put a point right here so we're able to divide this line, so we're going to be able to sew it on easier. So we're going to take our add point tool again and right click and go uniform split, and we're going to make the number of segments to be 2. So completely identical 2 segments. And the line is splitted right in the middle. Now we can easily connect the 2 segments to their pieces. Now if you forget which part to sew onto, you can always help yourselves with the blue dot. So let's grab our segment sewing tool, and we said that this part is going to go to here. As you can see, the seam lines are going straight, which means that's fine, and the other part is going to go here. And let's just connect that. There we go. Now we can simulate. And once that is done, we can now connect these 2 end parts together to close it off. And it's the same as with the top. Now we have like a better visual on how this actually appears, and of course it's a lot more looser than we want it to be, and we can easily fix that with the edit pattern tool. And we're going to grab these points at the end and push them inwards. But before I do that, of course I would like to push these points with the exact same amount on the left and on the right side. So I'm going to press Shift so I get this constraint, and instead of just dropping the point, I'm going to press my right mouse button so I get a dialog box that lets me input the length of the distance that I want, and let's go for 100. And let's do the same for the other point. So click and drag and right mouse button, and the distance that I want it to be moved is 100, and hit OK. And let's simulate that. Okay, I think it can also be shorter because we're not going to make completely longer sleeves. Okay, now as you can see, it's looking a little bit off here where the sleeve and the top meet, and that is because usually sleeves are built in such a way that this point right here is sticking out a bit, and it's also curved. So firstly we're gonna make it stick out a bit, and you see it's still not looking quite the way it should. And so what we're going to do is we're going to select the point, right click and convert to curve point. That way we get an identical looking curve all around. And if you feel like the sleeve appears too loose at the top, we can also drag the upper points inward as we did with the bottom ones, using the same technique by clicking the right mouse button and inputting the same distance for both sides. And let's move the left and the right point for 40 millimeters and simulate that. And now it's looking a lot better than it is. We can even push the sleeves a little bit more up to get an interesting effect. Okay, so this is for this one side, and we're going to take our transform pattern tool and we're just going to actually mirror copy the other side. So Control C and Control R to create a mirror copy. Now what I want to position the sleeve right here in the middle, so I'm just gonna make everything a little more organized. Alright, now I'm going to select both of these and choose right click and choose symmetrization. So again, I connect these two. If I make any changes to one, it will be visible on the other side. And as you can see, immediately when I apply symmetrization, I also get the seam lines on the other side. So it's a huge time saver for me. All I need to do is position this around her arm a little bit more using the gizmo. You don't even need to be that precise actually. And pull it up as I did with the other one. So as you notice, with MD, using the right mouse button usually opens up settings involving moving points, splitting lines, or copying elements in exact lengths and numbers. And that is something very good to remember while you're doing patterns. It can save you a lot of time. Now in the next clip, we will be doing another modification to her shirt. We're going to be adding a piece of fabric around her neck and thus creating a type of turtleneck.